Welcome back to Wild Speculations. I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
This week we talk about Critical Role Campaign 2, Episode 116, Under Timeless Ice.
Yes.
I had difficulty watching this episode. I ate dinner pretty close to start time for the show, and was doing some writing, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna relax in bed and watch the show and write. And I passed out, and I woke up just before the rebroadcast started.
Okay.
And kind of started watching it. Passed out again. And then Friday, at work, was kind of crazy.
Right.
So as much as I wanted to watch it, couldn't really. So I didn't actually get to watch the episode until yesterday. So, like, the beginning of the episode, I watched, a few times.
Right.
Unfortunately, the beginning of the episode wasn't very lively. But difficulties aside, it was an interesting episode and fun. And when we were talking about it, we mentioned, because there was some speculation that we had, how long before they would run into Molly.
Yeah.
Would they have any combats? Would they, sort of... And we both thought probably some traps, at least one encounter.
Yeah.
Before break, and then they would probably run in. And we were almost right.
Yeah, they took the break kind of late, but...
Well, they also took a very long time to get out of that first room.
Yeah.
And
they didn't exactly speed their way into the first room either, so...
No. Well, and by first room, I mean the entrance.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they did.
We had to have the talk about where are you camping, when do we send a message, can I see, how many days since the last accident.
Yeah. And they investigate that room, and like, the only thing that body was there to do was to prove to them that they were on Molly's trail.
Yeah.
Like, narratively, that was the only purpose of that body. And they just spent so long around it. I'm like, okay. And Veth goes off to inspect the tunnel. And now, that was a funny, hilarious moment. And I don't quite understand why she messaged Caduceus. Other than maybe Sam had an idea that it would be hilarious.
Yeah. And so that leads to a question I had. How does message work? Like, if I reply mid-sentence, do you not get to finish? Because that's how Sam was playing it.
I think he basically fast-forwarded to the reality that once she stopped speaking, Caduceus either would not be speaking or would be saying something not related. So she was just basically cutting out the middle bit.
Mm.
But rules as written messages, just like sending. You speak, they receive it, then they can reply.
Yeah, because it almost felt like they were playing it. It was real time. As he was speaking, he was getting it, and so you could cut him off and reply and end the spell.
Well, that's how Caduceus was definitely receiving it.
Yeah.
And I think Sam just fast-forwarded to the logical conclusion that...
Because he kept doing that motion to restart the spell.
Yeah, that Veth is not going to get anything that Caduceus is saying. So, yeah, that was Funny. However, two people with message
Yes.
can speak normally.
Yes.
Basically. So, like Caleb and Not or Beth could speak that way. Yeah. So, yeah. And I was joking with you that I don't know if Matt has done his research into rigor mortis and how long bodies take to freeze and stuff. So, good news is his history is clear of that. His internet search history. How long does a body take to freeze? Flagged. Also, I have to speak in defense of Sam's choice to be awkward, the goggles of night, because while the artifact might not say you have to attune to it, in theory they were set up for a medium-sized creature, for Bo to wear them.
Right.
And for her to give it to a hat, it's like your toddler putting on your glasses. Yeah. It's not gonna fit quite right, and I think that's where Sam was going with it.
Yeah. I like that at the beginning they're talking about going in, and Beth is like, I'll go in first and, scout, and well, who's next? No one for 100 feet at least. It's like, really?
Well, she does have a reputation of setting off traps rather than avoiding them.
Not so much since reliable talents come into play.
It's true. We have a discussion about, do cats have dark vision? Which is, I think, 2 or 3 times this campaign?
At least 3. Going all the way back to the early levels.
Yeah. And it is one of those things, and I think I remember seeing that they eroded that.
I think so.
But yeah, it's funny. Another interesting point is that Matt didn't make them make any checks to squeeze through the hole to get into the other chamber. Now, with all the foot dragging that was going on, I could understand that. Yeah, okay, you don't make the check, but the failure state is hilarious because it doesn't have to impede forward momentum in through the room. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of narrative fat, I guess, for lack of a better word, that for the party to interact with.
Yeah.
Like you don't get the moment of panic when Caduceus, Yasha, or Ford, or whoever fails the check has as they're trying to claw their way through. So I feel kind of bad that didn't happen. But he also didn't make them make any checks to climb the rope into the ceiling.
True.
Which, again, like, especially in, like, reflecting on how many resources they used to get up in that room, that they technically didn't have to. Like, I don't know, to not make them make the athletics check seemed salt in the wound of that cost, of that opportunity cost, or at least to my mind, it like
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I do want to rewind a bit to the head game. You know, Jester's like, so can I just whack? And everyone's like, what the fuck? And then just like, oh, we can. And they're all, oh, the body's Bez's body. Oh, so you can just be the corpse holder. Here you go. I catch it. I put the flames out after I catch it.
Yeah. Which that isn't the first head that Jester has chopped off for them.
Right.
And it's kind of sad that her axe doesn't get as much play.
Yeah.
Because that was, I think, if memory serves, I'm pretty sure that was the first magic weapon in the party. Was her axe.
I believe so. Yeah.
So yeah, it always kind of saddens me that she doesn't get enough thwacking in with it. Although maybe we'll see that if they fight Lucian. Maybe we'll see that because she's down both her 4th level slots, a 3rd level slot, and I think that's it. Because she didn't give any slots to the door to get it open. Yeah. Do you think? Oh, one of the things I wanted to talk about is Matt giving rough size estimates or distance estimates. Yeah. And like the part of me of as a viewer would kind of like to know exactly how far it is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, him narrating that way is more accurate to in the moment to somebody in that room. It looks about because you don't know.
Yeah. And especially when the floor, walls, and ceiling are all ice.
Yeah.
You know, when it all just kind of blends in, especially if it's a wider room, you know?
Yeah. And Matt did some stuff that I have been, well, in the same line of thinking as some of the stuff that I've been thinking about doing with an Araku adventure, which is essentially that space is off kilter.
MC, yeah, sure.
Yeah, kind of. Where he did it in a collapsed city, my idea is exploring a ship, a starship. So, but the idea that the room is slanted or like either inclined or just slanted, and you have to make a dexterity check to get through it without falling.
Yeah.
And also, like, I feel kind of bad for Travis because he did seem to have real difficulty with like the way that Matt was describing the room. He was kind of sort of melting his brain, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
And even when Sam says, "So are we in a room that's on its side?"
Yes, exactly like that.
I think even then it's like Travis is like, okay, but even then, like Marisha at one point is like the ceiling door Well, actually, it's the wall door. Semantics. No. That's literally where it's at. It's on the wall.
Yeah, but you know, it was fun. It was interesting, but like they had to make the checks in the slanted room. But when Beth ran down the rope in the slanted room, she didn't have to make a check.
I believe she is proficient in acrobatics,
which allows you to tightrope walk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, balancing checks are acrobatics checks.
Right.
Um,
but
and I think it's like a 15 DC.
Okay.
And even if it's a 20 DC,
yeah,
reliable talent, she's got over that.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a problem with that at all. And in fact, I was like, oh, brilliant when she did it. I didn't quite understand why they sent Jester down with the rope to the other end. Other than I was like, I think they misunderstood the direction of the slant. Because really, it should have been the strong person at the top of the room.
Yeah.
And then people just go down. So when they went up into the ceiling, they thought it was an ice spider. I thought it was a phase spider. What did you think it was?
You know, my initial thought when he was describing it was phase spider, but I just kind of went with the group. And it never moved, so I don't know that it actually, I mean...
If it was actually alive?
Yeah. It may have been a frozen carcass.
Possible. Now, I have my theories as to why it didn't attack them. And it has to do with the fact that they had already been... The stream was up more than an hour. Like, they'd already been... They were like over an hour in.
Right.
And I think Matt wanted to get to Molly. And so I think he was just like, it's just not going to attack him. Like, if they don't approach it, it's not going to do anything. But that could also have been the setup of that room to begin with.
Yeah.
But yeah, because, and that's why I say it sort of just, that's another reason it disappointed me he didn't make the climb check, the athletics check, because if that's going to be a combat encounter, it is much more stressful. Like, that's a preview for that black pudding encounter later.
Yeah.
But in the opposite direction. Where can you get up to save your friends that are up there? But, yeah. They have the ice elementals. I'm assuming that's what they were.
Yeah.
Matt referred to them as elementals. When I was watching it, I was like, could these be like a reskinned wisp?
Yeah.
Like an ice will-o-wisp. Like, instead of lightning damage, it does cold damage. With a cold aura. And I have purposely not asked to see Rime of the Frost Maiden, even though you have it, because I asked if you would run it, so I don't want to peek it and ruin anything. So I was wondering if you had run across ice elementals in that.
You know, I haven't done a huge delve into the bestiary yet.
Okay.
So
But yeah, I felt real bad for Caduceus. And something occurred to me watching it today.
Okay.
Especially in high level play,
Mm-hmm.
it seems to be, I don't want to say more effective, but more affecting if you can single out a party member,
yeah,
to take a bunch of damage and get real close to death. Because likely you're not going to be able to do enough damage to take down several. It has to be the dice have to go real bad for the players or really good for the DM.
Yeah.
For it to be spread out like that.
And of course, ideally you go for the healer.
Do you? So I was trying to think of why. Like what triggered their behavior? Because Jester flew in fine. Caleb crossed the room fine. It wasn't until Caduceus. So what do you think the trigger was?
I think it was of where they stopped.
What do you mean?
Because Caduceus was, only part way down and right in the center.
Well, that's when he noticed that these things were coming down. But like my the reason I asked that question is because I think based on what we saw, they don't descend for say 10 to 12 seconds after the first person enters the room to give that person that chance to light the braziers.
Okay, yeah.
But they didn't do that, so they come down to sap the warmth out of the intruders.
Yeah.
And I loved the choice of Caleb doing the Widowghast web.
Yes.
And he's like, yeah, no, I shoot it towards Bo. She'll get out of the way, or she won't.
The typical wizard.
Well, I mean, kinda.
It's fireball.
Although,
get out of the way or wind to the healer.
Technically, Marisha should have had advantage on her dexterity saving throw. With the way her dice were rolling, I don't know if it would have mattered.
Yeah, no, probably not.
So that's the thing that I'm like, yeah, you could point that out, but would it have really mattered? Yeah, and I want to equate it to Caduceus' It's Again. And I loved how, well, so Veth gets dropped when they finally do open the doors with Caleb's second web of fire. And she is asking if she got her knife on the way out.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's be honest. That wasn't from the web of fire.
What do you mean?
Because Ford knocked her when he dove in.
Yeah. Well, she was falling for that reason.
Yeah.
But she didn't look for the knife when she got to the bot immediately. Do you think that was Sam forgetting that the knife was there, or that Matt described this acerbic scent in the air? That she was like, "Oh, what's that?" first.
I think she just, got distracted. But yeah, Ford knocks her the fuck out the way to get to his buddy, Caduceus.
Yeah, and is it Liam who said that Travis is the master at the drive-by thunderstep?
Yeah, and yeah,
And that was a cool moment too. But the paladin's got to protect his cleric.
at the cost of the others.
Well, Ford does.
I rest my case.
But again, it's one of those things where she should have been able to save herself, like stat-wise. But yeah. And I think Matt was starting to feel bad for them because he started trying to invent uses for reliable talent. Like, can you imagine if it gave you a minimum 10 on your die roll for initiative?
It would be amazing.
It's like,
better than alert.
I know, I was about to say, not even alert does that. But yeah, I like to call Vet's adventure into the whole Halfling's Day Out. For Baby's Day Out.
Yeah.
And we seem to have found Beau's weakness because she has failed to save twice for hypnotic pattern.
Yep.
Do you think? Because on the rewatch, I was like, she should have arguably she should have cast Spider Climb right away. If she had done that, she could have bonus action disengaged, move, and then dashed, and she would have been out of the area. But on the other hand, hypnotic pattern saved her probably 40 damage.
Yeah.
And concentration was rough this episode. Jester, duplicate versus her spirit guardians, and then Veth failing the concentration check on Spider Climb.
Yep.
Running up the wall. Trying to think if there's anyone. I don't think there was anyone else. Oh no, Caduceus failed his in the aura. And that's a case of eventually you're going to roll low.
Yeah. Low rolls happen to everyone.
Yeah. So yeah, getting...
And, to be fair, after the last couple of episodes with the absurd amount of 20s that were in those,
Fair. They were dropping them a lot last episode, in 115.
Yeah.
Except against the pillar and the emerald.
Yeah.
That was the only...
But even 114, they had a lot of 20s. So there was like 2 episodes where their dice were like rolling super hot.
Yeah.
So it just came quicker than normally would.
Yeah. Do you think Matt designed the drop of that to be outside of the range of a message spell? Or do you like? How do you? Because I'm curious how he came up with the 270 feet
Yeah.
drop. Like that number, that distance.
Yeah. And when he first described it, I thought it was even further
300.
than that.
Because I added the 60 feet of dark vision.
Well, because he's like at 270, you see the ground coming up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then when Jester bammed from 250, they only dropped 20 feet.
I had the same moment.
So
Yeah.
I thought it was a lot further.
Yeah, I thought it was over 300 feet as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same. I had the same kind of,
Which is a good thing it wasn't, because she only went 250 feet down.
that
would have been 80 feet.
Yeah. Do you... Okay, so Matt has been hodgepodge, wishy-washy in how he's let Bo transfer her slow fall abilities. How would you do it?
How I would do it, if I was running a game and you were playing a monk and you wanted to do that, I would be like, okay, you take no damage from the fall, but you're going to split the damage from bracing them, and you each take half of it.
Okay.
And you can roll an acrobatics check to reduce that like normal by the 10 feet, by the, 1 die worth. But you're basically cushioning their blow. And it's not so much the force of the fall that's hitting you, it's the force of them falling on top of you.
Yeah. Right.
That's how I would rule it.
Because I think, like, the person that she's catching could make the acrobatics check to reduce it by a d6. I think that's fair. But for her to transfer any cushioning ability, I would make it a strength save.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you're catching them.
Yeah, I'm totally down with that.
And if you succeed, then they take half.
My thought in them doing acrobatics as well is kind of the whole rolling to mitigate the damage.
Yeah.
Effect.
That's fair too.
So, I think either way is a good solution.
Yeah.
In fact, now that you bring that up, I'd let them choose. You can make a strength save to catch, or you can do depending on how they're doing it.
Mm.
They're trying to, tuck and roll it, or if they're just trying to impact.
Mm. Fair.
That way, your strength-based monks and your dex-based monks get their option.
Yeah. Do they take half damage either way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever damage is rolled, they each take half of it.
Because I think in my strength save solution, they take none or all of it.
Okay.
I think that's how I would do it.
And that's fair as well.
Your way is probably a lot kinder. But, like, if you're going to put yourself in a position to sacrifice,
yeah,
there should be some danger.
That's fair. And, and I don't know. My idea is just that you're taking part of their fall damage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, either one, technically works. Because my way is high risk, high reward. It's all or none. And your way is you're going to be taking half.
Yeah. You're taking something.
Yeah. Which is still, you're going to if you're putting yourself to sacrifice, you're gonna sacrifice.
And if it's a 270-foot ball, you're set at half damage. You're sacrificing.
Yeah. Also, watching the episode when Matt described the temperature drop.
Mm-hmm.
My first thought was brown mole.
Yeah.
And because I've been using it a lot.
Yeah, because you've been using it. And I used it in the one shot too.
Yeah. But I was super stoked when the black puddings came out. Because I also had just used it in an encounter.
Nice.
So, no, it was just one in my encounter. They were much lower level characters. And no one did slashing or lightning damage to it. So, that was good there. But yeah, I was pleased, tickled that Matt had the black puddings at the base. And I thought it funny that he let it be known that the reason they had to fight the black puddings is because they were yelling. Yeah. That if they had just been quiet, they would have gotten by without issue.
Yeah. Which is why they were still there when Molly's group had gone through.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I think there were a couple moments. Travis didn't say anything, but I could see on his face, and he shared a couple looks with a couple people that was, how did Molly get past all this? And the only one that I would argue he had some cause for was the fact that the door was iced over.
Well, he even said that you could still access it. It wasn't 100% iced then.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
been partly cleared out.
That's true. But they get to the hallway. Mm-hmm. And they are freaked out by the pile of corpses. I'm beginning to think Matt could get them to argue by just sinisterly describing a room. Because what's with the chair?
Well,
and the table.
Yeah, and look at Matt's much better at describing things than I am, and look how long I got you guys to argue over things in that one shot just by the description of the area.
Fair, yes.
So yeah, he easily could do that.
Although in my defense,
or how long you've gotten us to argue over things.
Yeah. In my defense, my character, 5th level, 18 hit points. Yeah. I was not keen to go through any door first.
Or last.
Or last. Yeah, yep. Yep. You open that.
Let's get back here.
Here's some inspiration for the ability check.
100 feet.
Yep. So yeah. And again, we get a descriptor that indicates they are catching up to Molly. The slapping of the limbs, the blood that's dripping. These are fresh kills.
Yep.
Then they come to the door and they have to sacrifice 6 levels of spells.
Yep.
Essentially is what it comes down to. I fear for them if they fight Molly, because Caleb has he's down a 5th level, 2 4th levels, a 3rd level, basically all of his 1st.
Yeah.
And a 2nd.
Yep.
So.
Well, can I just say, what kind of King in Yellow Sith Lord Ted Bundy fucking shit was that with Molly?
So that serves a couple purposes, I think.
Like, damn.
It definitely paints him in the villain role that Matt wants him to have.
Yes.
It enforces the threat that Molly poses to them if this goes badly.
Yeah.
It also, if I'm right, foreshadows the special mechanics that Matt is going to give Molly as a monster.
Yeah.
And I think it's all around the eyes.
And I really think, so one thing I noticed, the line, "Oh, hello, I didn't expect you so soon, I was hoping to tidy up a bit." That's a throwback to Buffy, the Vampire Slayer. And Angel, when he becomes Angelus for the first time and comes to the crypt. And I think Lucy and Molly are an Angel-Angelus type dichotomy.
Interesting. Yeah, I can see that.
And how bad is he gonna fuck with Yasha and Jester's emotions by being that kind of a dichotomy?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and
I mean, we're looking. If you remember, then that's back when Willow was still pretty innocent.
Yeah.
And he about shredded her.
Yeah. Just
with talking, and I think that's what's going to happen to Chester.
You think so?
Chester's going to be Willow, and she's just going to break down emotionally.
Huh. So do you think that happens because he remembers all of Molly's experiences? Because really, that's the only way that he could do that.
No, it's not.
You don't think so?
He's done his research.
Has he, though?
I think he has. I think he's talked to Kree. Kree took some of their blood. Matt let that slip.
Yes.
Because when Jester made the investigation, you don't know if it was. And then this episode, it's definitely less than you remember being in there.
Yeah.
Not that that has anything to do with the blood cleric ability, but it does give them familiarity with the person for other spells to learn about.
Yes. It's a material component.
And Kree could have gotten information on them, easily working for the gentleman.
Yeah.
I
not easily, because even the gentleman didn't know very much. And the revelation that Jester came and said, "You're my dad," didn't happen until after Molly was dead.
Right, but Kree was still around.
I don't think so.
It was the same visit that they told Kree about Molly's death. And he's only been gone a couple of months.
Yeah, that's true.
For the gentleman.
Yeah.
So it's not like Kree split the second she found out Molly was dead.
Yeah, and
because it's only been 1 or 2 months, and he died about a little over 6 months ago in game.
Yeah, and she would have had to go collect the other tomb takers.
Mm-hmm. So there was 4 months of her doing research, figuring out where Molly was, why he was there, what they were doing together. Now, he could remember some things. He could not. He could have been filled in, with... We don't know that they haven't been scrying on them this whole time.
We don't. That's true. We've only seen the hour a day when Ford has caught it.
Yeah. I mean, he could have been scrying on him for the last 2 months since Cree went and brought him back.
Since Jester messaged him.
Like, every damn day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
He could have a lot of information without having Molly's memory.
Fair.
Though I do believe he probably has some, if not all.
Yeah, see, and to me, it is way more narratively satisfying if he does remember.
Yeah. And that would fit the Angel-Angelus dichotomy.
Yeah. Yeah. And if that's the case, then he definitely has the ammunition to tear them to pieces.
Yeah.
Because
I am your god, long may I reign.
I mean, well, not just that, but like the first time anyone gets lippy or threatens him or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're gonna put me in the ground again?
Yeah.
I came to rescue you. You're gonna kill me now? I gave my life to try to get you out of that bondage. Yeah. And in that case, like, does he even have to resort to mind controlling magic?
Exactly.
It's too bad there's not a condition. Because I don't...
The guilt-tripped condition.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, like, I guess if you wanted to reflavor poisoned, sick with guilt,
mm-hmm.
kind of thing. That might make sense. But also, like, using some of the conditional modifiers of fear.
Yeah.
Because fear is only effective if the object of your fear is within line of sight. So, giving it some aspect of that. Like, so if you can see Molly, you have disadvantage on attack rolls, saving throws.
Yeah.
And ability checks. That would be interesting. Although I expect them to either cast Charm Person or Crown of Madness. And if he is some sort of warlock 5th level Charm Person, he can nail a couple of them. Because they weren't able to ascertain who actually, like, killed these people. They were able to see that there was a skirmish.
Mm-hmm.
But a high enough level Charm Person, you have the party killing each other. And you just stand back and watch.
Yeah.
So I expect something like that to happen. We know one of them is a ranger.
We know one is a ranger. We know one is a blood cleric.
Yeah. and whatever if Molly stayed Blood Hunter. So we have a wild card.
I think he probably did. He may have multi-class, but my gut says that Lucian is probably a warlock variant.
Yeah.
Blood hunter compared to the Ghost
Profane
Slayer.
Soul.
Yeah, that's what it is. Because he's definitely not the mutagenist.
No.
And I don't think he's going to be the Ghost Slayer. And he's not going to be the Lycan, which leaves the Profane Soul.
Yeah.
Which gives him some spells.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to make use of the blood curses and stuff.
Yeah. Well, we've already seen that happening.
Yeah.
With the bleeding eyes and everything. So.
Yeah. So we've got a ranger, a blood hunter, a blood cleric, and 2 others.
Yeah. And I think one of them has to be a caster, a separate full caster.
And I think one of them has to be a frontline combatant. Whether that's a melee fighter, a paladin, or a barbarian. Maybe a rogue, but actually.
Well, if Matt wants to keep with the Cthulhu feel, he could do the warlock. I don't remember. They changed the name of it, I think, in one of from the UA. But the one that deals with Kraken and psychic damage.
The Fathomless.
Yeah.
Is now.
He could do that.
Yeah.
And have them be a Hexblade. So you have a parallel with 4.
No. Hexblade and Fathomless.
Or not Hexblade, sorry. Blade Lock. Pact of the Blade.
Yeah.
Have them be that, but Pact of the Blade.
Yeah.
Trying to think. I mean, any fighter would work. An Oath of Conquest Paladin might be fun.
Yeah. Or even evil version of Oath of the Watchers. That was UA and it's coming out now. That deals with aberrations and extraplanar stuff.
Yeah. Trying to think. Although
my gut actually says it'll be probably a rogue fighter multi-class or a fighter with the criminal background for the lockpicks and stuff.
Well, yeah, and one of them.
Yeah, one of them is going to have to be the trap finder lockpicker type.
Yeah.
So it's rogue or rogue multi-class.
Yeah.
Could be a phantom. Might be interesting.
Although I have a feeling if it might be a mastermind rogue.
Yes. My favorite rogue.
Just because of, and the reason I say that is because of the attitude that they had with Vess from her description of their evolving relationship.
Yeah.
It seems like a very mastermindy thing to do, to say, no, we want more.
Yeah.
Also, would fit into the criminal. Well, I mean, road fits anyway, but what we've seen is Shady Creek Run.
Yeah.
A mastermind would do well there.
Yeah, very much so.
Do you think one of them is? I just blanked on his name. The circus master.
Oh no.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think he was a tomb taker.
Well, he wouldn't have to be a tomb taker. They could have picked him up as an ally later.
Oh, okay. Still no, because I still think he was a grinner. Part of the Golden Grin.
You do?
I do.
Okay. I don't think so.
Okay.
I think he has something to do with the infernal stuff that's happening. Because he had the devil toad in his circus. Like, I find it hard to believe that a grinner would
Fair.
go, and that he didn't want to get out of prison. Like, that he wanted to be in that area for a specific amount of time.
Yeah. That's fair.
So, and I think the party took his gems. Because when they were leaving town, they saw the guy stashing the gems. And I think he will have. If he's not with Molly, I think we'll see him again when they are heading into the Ashkeeper Peaks. Although there's also the possibility that only a couple of them are statted as PCs.
Yeah.
And the others are just monster stat blocks.
Yeah.
It makes running the encounter a lot easier.
That's true.
So there's just not a lot of that's one of my major problems is there's not a lot of high CR people that aren't spellcasters anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah. Do we expect fighting to happen because of the King in Yellow, Darth Vader-y? Or do you think it goes to talkie-talkie, rest together, and then set out?
Definitely goes talkie-talkie. I don't know about how quickly it
devolves to combat. Okay.
I do believe it will definitely not go how either side plans.
Well, Molly plans one of two things. Either he convinces them to join him, or he kills them. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to go the way he wants. The Mighty Nine, I don't think they've made up their mind how they want it to go.
Yeah. And, I mean, let's be honest. Campaign 1 was a group of people saving the world from evil. Campaign 2 is a group of people saving the world from themselves.
Not an unfair assessment.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a good chunk of what the fuck is happening, a little bit of monologue, maybe some discussion. And depending on how the discussion goes, we will either straight away enter to combat or... and I think if I'm right, and he does rip apart, especially if it's Jester, it's going to devolve to a fight right away. Both Caleb and Ford are going to come to her defense. And probably Bo as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
and when Bo goes, Yasha will be right behind.
Yeah. Until she's mind control.
Yes.
So that's my one not so wild speculation is Yasha will be mind control.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, that's would be one argument why they don't need a frontline fighter in their party. They have Yasha.
Yeah. Yeah. If it doesn't come to a fight and they come to a peaceable negotiation of joining forces to get to Aor, I don't think Molly gets to come into the tower. But I could be wrong. Also, I kind of want to see that fight in the tower.
I think Molly does, but not the rest of them. Because they want Molly alone to try and convince him that he's Molly, not Lucian.
Fair. But we shall see this Thursday.
Yep.
See you guys later.
I guess.